Hello again, it's Ken Rethmeier, and this is going to be an unnumbered episode of my Leading4Vaue podcast that I've been recording using the book you see on the screen here. Leading4Vaue is the content, and the four chapters, those four chapters are organized around four different models that I created during the course of my many years leading, consulting, teaching, etc. And the tools that many of which I created myself to help reinforce those and be used by leaders in their organizations. And I like the quote above them. Read it again. The genius of leadership function is articulating a vision of the future that is at once simple, easily understood, clearly desirable, and energizing. And if you can do that in an organization for which you're leading the entire company or organization or your team, then what will happen is the people who work for you will build a bond with you based on trust. And I can't emphasize that enough. And during the course of my many, many years, and I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my own experiences in that regard, I learned very early on that if you're going to be a good leader, you've got to have the trust of the people with you. You're all in the same, pardon the expression, boat. And as a consequence, it's important. And some of the learnings that I sort of picked up on very quickly is that this whole idea of leadership, it is a journey. And you're going to run into opportunities as you go along. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that we make as leaders is we have monitors out there. We don't keep a good close eye on them, and we don't see the things that pop up. And when they do, sometimes they might catch your attention. And in many cases, you might say, I wonder if I ought to do that. And my advice is, if you see something that's interesting, if you see something that fits well in your leadership journey and what you're trying to achieve, do it. I mean, do it. Just do it. The old Nike saying. And I think it's more important to take a chance, because when you do, you're going to find out there are going to be some real blessings and gifts that you will get as a result. I guarantee it. It's happened to me. And I used to tell people that my career was a series of accidents. The good news is nobody got hurt. And so what I think you need to do is, that's very important. And the journey is made more robust, and with greater care and support, I highly recommend finding a mentor. My primary mentor, believe it or not, and I met when I was a master's student at the University of North Carolina, School of Public Health in 1967. And I was in his first classes. He was moving from his PhD program at Michigan into Chapel Hill. Arnold D. Kaluzny, PhD, great professor, great mentor, and great advisor. He was advisor of my master's program, Master of Public Health in Medical Care Administration, and went on to be the chairman of my doctoral committee when I went back a number of years later to do my doctoral work in public health administration, specializing in organizational behavior. And believe it or not, even today, 2024, Arnie and I still talk on a very frequent basis. He still gives me advice. I give him advice. And I can tell you one day, this is a quick story. When I finished with the Navy and moved back down to North Carolina, he asked me to come once a year to do a lecture for the master's students that were finishing up the program, and to talk about this journey of leadership and transitions from one environment to another. And one time he wasn't going to be there. He said, you know what to do, just do it. It gave me a great opportunity to highlight in front of all these young people, about 25 of them, what a great leader he was and the work he had done in fostering an environment for leadership for other people, academically and professionally. And I went on and on. At the end of the program, that lecture, this young lady walked up. She said, "Thank you, Dr. Rethmeier. I sincerely appreciate the kind things you said about my father." Yep, it was Melissa Klusny. I didn't know she was in the program, but it gave me an opportunity to share with her and the rest of her class, and they were pretty impressed. And what the lesson there is that as you move along, there are going to be people there that can help you along the way. And I encourage you to get with them, work with them, and I guarantee you, you won't regret it. It's something that just happens, and you'll be surprised how those relationships evolve over time. And these are the kind of people that you can say what you need to say, share what you want to share, and yes, learn from them. Very important. One of the other key things I learned, these are going to be snippets, if you will, in this session, is when someone says to you, you can't do something, okay? I want you to translate that into, I don't want you to. And I don't know about you, but the difference between saying you can't do something and I don't want you to do something, I go back to Clint Eastwood, make my day. You watch me. And I learned that very early on in my second tour. I served 22 years as a medical service corps officer in the United States Navy, direct commission out of grad school, retiring as a captain, 06. And I learned very early on in my second tour with the Marines. I was their preventive medicine officer in environmental health for all of what we call Northern I Corps. And I heard a lot, you can't do that. And my answer, as I learned, was, okay, watch me. And we did some pretty interesting things. One of those was having the opportunity to go out into the villages to help them establish and create sanitation systems, proper care and of butchering meat, that not hanging them out in the village, getting them refrigerated, and a whole variety of other things. My team and I worked with the Department of State and the Department of Agriculture. And I learned more about public health and what it means, and especially epidemiology. And I have to give credit to a Dr. Schottland at UCLA, who was my professor as an undergrad in that course. I used it a lot. We had a lot of foodborne illness outbreaks. We were always investigating tuberculosis and other kinds of communicable diseases. And it worked. And that's another thing. Don't think of the academic experiences as just an academic experience. Try to frame everything as, how is that going to help me in my leadership role? And that'll make a big difference. And it's a way of always applying something that you've learned in the practice of what you're doing. So what were some of the key leadership opportunities I had? I'm going to skip ahead because I had involved in high school leadership activities. I was an exchange student, the first one in my high school in Germany, which gave me a wonderful lot of opportunities to do learning speaking engagements. And then in college, I was the president of my fraternity on the Fraternity Council and a number of other things. But one job that got me going, believe it or not, was when I worked for Walt Disney at Disneyland in Anaheim. And I had the best job in the park, to skipper and guide down the rivers of adventure on the Jungle Cruise. And what I learned from that was it's about the vision and how you translate as a leader the vision into reality, into your organization. And Disney had a very strong vision. And that vision was to create a wholesome family entertainment experience. I won't go into what's going on today. Don't go there. And don't ask me to. But during that time, I learned a lot about leadership. And fast forward a tape, in one of the podcasts you'll see, I used that experience when I was commanding officer of the Naval School of Health Sciences by opening my strategy speech using the opening lines of the Jungle Cruise. Welcome aboard, unwary travelers, to the Congo Maiden. My name is Ken. I'll be your skipper and a guide down the rivers of adventure. So Walt taught me a lot. And the other thing he taught me was when you're a leader and you're in your office, you're off stage, unless you're in a meeting. The minute you walk outside that office, you're on stage. And everything you do, everything you say will be sending messages to the team and the organization in which you're working. And that's very important. The Navy taught me a lot about leadership and the responsibility you have. And for me, it was a life-changing experience, that Vietnam, for a number of reasons that I won't go into. But it also taught me in the Navy that when you're in charge, you have a very strong responsibility for the mission of what you're doing, the people who work under you or for you, and how you need to give them as much as they're giving you. And if you do that, you will be a success. I had 3 corporate experiences after I retired from the Navy, Hospital Association of Pennsylvania, where we did some landmark work on community health needs assessments, published a little book called, based on Johnny Appleseed, that got recognition from the American Hospital Association because we were trying to translate hospital leaders into thinking about how they work in a community and to expand their practice beyond the 4 walls of their hospitals. Very important. And secondly, in Sun Health, I got an opportunity to go back, work as a consultant as part of my role there with Disney Development Corporation and helping the Adventist Health System in Orlando in creating their first educational forum environment at Celebration Health. And again, that's a leadership role that I learned a great deal. Those were great people, the Adventist people and the Disney Development Corporation. We had a lot of fun. A guy named Charlie Jacobson, who was a physician, and I worked together on that. And every 2 weeks, I was down there for a week at a time. And it was a wonderful learning experience to see how that organization's leaders do what they do. And again, it's all about learning. It's continuous learning. And every day when you get home in the afternoon, you need to think about, what did I learn today? What did I experience? And how did I deal with that, especially the tough times? Now, later on in my retirement, if you will, I got an opportunity to work with Project Hope. Again, a gift, basically. Arnold Kaluzny got me involved. And I did management and training for healthcare leaders, hospital directors in the old Eastern Bloc countries, as we call it, 7 of them. First year it was the Czech Republic and Hungary. The second year it was Macedonia, and the second year was Estonia and Latvia, and the third year it was Macedonia and Romania. I've been to Romania 3 times. That gave me an opportunity to do some things that were really fantastic. And Project Hope opened my eyes to that and gave me opportunities I would have never had. Pardon me. Project Hope then transitioned into my faculty appointment with the Department of International Health at Maastricht University in the Netherlands. Still do work with them, mentoring students and usually 1 lecture a year. But again, as a leader, you learn that your job is to transfer your knowledge and your experience in an effective way so that people that work with you can see that. And when you do, they'll recognize it. Pardon me. And now, currently, over the last 5 years, been working with the Foreign Investors Council of Romania. Been to Romania 3 times. Great people. They only spend 4.9% of their GDP on healthcare. But I found some wonderful leaders there. 2 of my good friends, Marius Uncaranu at the Cluj School of Public Health, Marina, mispronounced her Brinzenik, there, and Mikna Samoila, who was at one time the medical director for Petrom, the oil company, and Georgiana and Alexandra and a number of other folks at the FIC. And that's been a great experience working with these people and helping them in their journey and watching them mature and evolve. And, you know, when I think back, there were some things that I'm going to finish with. And one of them comes from a basketball coach. You've heard of him. He was a competitor of UCLA and Carolina, Jim Valvano. And Jim Valvano's life ended tragically through cancer. And when he got the ESPY award, his final words were, "Don't give up. Don't ever give up." And I can't say that enough times. When you're down and out and you're feeling bad as a leader, get in your little cave or you're in your room, go out on a golf course or go do something that you can find to distract your attention a bit and let your mind work. It will solve the problem. You will do that. I know you will. I've seen it happen. And I believe that a good friend of mine, Charlotte Roberts, who was part of the Peter Senge Field Book of the Fifth Discipline book, one of her favorite phrases was, "Create your own future. Don't take one from strangers." I can't say that enough. It's your responsibility. It's your opportunity. And I can't tell you enough times that when you get out there in those roles, as my kids used to say, just irregardless of what level you are in your organization, you've got a great opportunity. Take advantage of it. Thank you. The podcast is advertised down on the right, kardrph.podbean.com. I have an email, and you can send it to krethmeier@therethmeiergroup.com. Send me notes. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer you best I can. Again, thank you. Continue your learning. I'm here. And as we used to say in the Navy, I'm standing by to assist. Fair winds and following seas. Welcome aboard. Goodbye now.